Following the agenda, we'll now take up the school committee members and student reports. School committee chair report. I'll take this opportunity to present to the public, the viewing public at home, as well as the people sitting here today, the makeup of our committees. First for the year 2016. Resource Committee, Chair Pete Stevens, Beth Walsh, and Marisa Fleming. Policy Committee, Sally Cragen, Chair, Juana Bedolla and Marisa Fleming. Student Support, Jeannie LaBelle Pierce, Chair, Juana Bedolla, Sally Cragen. School Personnel, the Mayor as the Chair, Pete Stevens and Beth Walsh. Executive Marketing, the Mayor, Beth Walsh, and Jeannie LaBelle Pierce. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for your service. Report of the Resource Committee?
No report.
Policy Committee?
We will be meeting on February 11th at 3 o'clock in Central Office, third floor. And the public is, of course, invited to attend, and we'll be putting the notice of the agenda out early next week.
Thank you, Ms. Cragen. Student Support Committee?
Our plan is to meet February 22nd before the regular school committee meeting. So at 5:30, we have to pull agenda items together, and that'll be done in the next couple of days.
Thank you. School Personnel Committee? Who would that be?
You.
Is that me? That's me.
Yes.
You wanted it last week.
I was just cruising along there, huh? And then boom. Andre, help me out here. Oh, thank you. We continue to hold meetings with the respective unions. What are there? 7 of them, Pete? Seven of them. So you can imagine we're very busy. This week, I think coming up is nurses, I believe, tomorrow.
Nurses tomorrow.
Tomorrow. We've got some other ones throughout the week. We had one today. It was canceled, an illness with one of the members. But, the meetings, you should know that they move very, very smoothly. There's a collegial aspect to it, believe it or not. People are cooperative, sharing, and we're getting to completion on those contracts. Always a challenging effort on the part of the school department, but also those respective committees. We're doing well, and that speaks well of the central office personnel along with the school committee members, so I thank them for their efforts. Executive Committee? Don't say that's me again. It is. Oh, it is. No report. Thank you, Audrey. Student report?
As far as the sports go, we have that the girls team went over Leominster for District E Indoor Track Championship on Saturday. And then then the upcoming basketball team game versus Leominster is tomorrow, and everyone's very excited about that, of course. Then we have the ice hockey team versus St. Bernard on Wednesday, and also versus Leominster on Saturday. And then the wrestling team versus Marlborough on Wednesday.
As far as school events go, the Rachel's Challenge orientation, it's like it's happening tomorrow. Basically, there's going to be a presentation about what it is, and then there's going to be an opportunity to develop a club based on it, and a training presentation for about 100 students. Basically, what the Rachel Challenge is, it's a program devoted to making schools safer and changing bullying to making everyone feel like they belong. And Rachel's legacy is of kindness and compassion, and that's what they're hoping to teach tomorrow. As well, this past Saturday was the AP Math session, and I feel like these are very beneficial to the students of FHS. They bring out teachers from schools around, and then other schools join us, and this Saturday we had a pretty good attendance.
In addition, report cards came out Friday for all of us students, and we're hoping everyone was satisfied with the results. For as far as prom goes, it's coming up close. It's on April 30th, and the theme was decided to be Enchanted Forest. And the National Honor Society Community Service is starting the projects again. We have been working on readathons, peer tutoring, and helping the homeless, and they're excelling from there.
Thank you. Very well done. Can you pronounce your name for me, yours?
Jacinta Mari.
Jacinta Mari.
Yes.
Okay. And
Nazanin.
Nazanin.
Yes.
That's great names.
Thank you.
Thanks for your service here.
May I ask a question?
Yes, by all means.
So Rachel's challenge comes out of the tragedy of Cone.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, I know you have advisories at the school, and those are still meeting, correct? Do you still meet with them?
Advisory meets every year, once a month maybe. Yeah.
Do you know right now if there's a plan to follow up about, I've been at the Rachel's Challenge assembly, and it's very powerful. So I'm curious, do you know what maybe a follow-up plan might be about some of the topics that kind of come up for discussion?
Well, as I mentioned, I believe that there is going to be an opportunity to form a Rachel's Legacy Club. So
Okay.
I think that's the path in motion right
Just kind of open to anybody who wants to join? Or?
now. Yeah, I believe so.
Do you think that could be something you follow up with here? I'd really be interested to see
Yes.
on one of your reports what kind of comes out of it. Thank you.
I have just a couple of comments I want to make. Just a couple of comments, and this one is for the school committee. If you read your legislative bulletin, if you got today, school improvement plans, H391, an act relating to school committee improvement plans, was filed by MASC, and principally sponsored by Representative Haddad and Senator Spilka. This bill was worked out with MASS, that's the Massachusetts Association of Superintendents, and maintains the approval of the superintendent and reinstates the approval of such plans by the school committee. H391 has passed the House and is currently in the Senate's Rule Committee. What this does is it gives the authority back to the school committee, along with the superintendent, to approve the school improvement plans. And we were able to do that for several years, and then there was a change a few years back. And now when principals come in with their school improvement plans, we listen to them. But under H391, we would then have to approve them. And I would hope we get back to that, because we are the policymakers and are responsible for the school system, and I would like to have more oversight. One other thing I would just like to mention is I would like to mention, as one school committee member, that Fitchburg no longer has Butch Clark serving at Monty Tech, and Mr. Clark served for 16 years representing Fitchburg very well. And just as one person, I'm going to miss him, and the information that he used to give me what was going on at Monty Tech, of which I have never received from any other school committee member at Monty Tech. Mr. Clark worked very hard and diligently for the students of Fitchburg, not just Monty Tech, but the rest of the students at Fitchburg. So just as one school committee member, I would like to thank Mr. Clark for his 16 years of service.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. That was very, very much welcomed, and I thank you for that. You're absolutely right. Butch Clark was a great asset to the community, and we thank him for all those years. Thank you for making that statement. Staff and student presentations moving along on the agenda. Fitchburg High School A+ students. Schuyler Robinson?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so at this point, I'd like to invite Schuyler to come up. This is a name that should be a household name by now. He's been in the news, not only in the local newspaper, but he's also one of our A+ students. But before Schuyler talks a little bit about his experience, I thought it would be good to put this in a context, a historical context of the A+ students in the Fitchburg Public Schools. So I contacted Dick Vaughn this morning, and I asked him to put together this list, and I'd like to share some of that with the community. because it's incredibly impressive. And for some of you, this is going to be a walk down memory lane, because these names will bring back great memories. In 2006, Vinny Rodriguez was the WCVB A-plus student. He ended up working, going to Wentworth Institute. He worked in the Peace Corps, and now he's working in banking. And Vinny, my first memory of Vinny was when he was a junior in high school, and it was at the Scholars Dinner. And Vinny, among all the other things, had taught himself how to play the piano the year before. And he volunteered to come to the Scholars Dinner and play the piano all night long through the dinner. And that's just the kind of guy Vinny was. On 2007, Truck Dong was the scholar, and Truck went on to Fairfield University for a nurse practitioner degree. 2008, Chua Yang went on to he went to the College of Pharmaceuticals for a doctor in pharmacy, and ended up he is a pharmacist in Kansas City, Kansas. B. Yang in 2009 moved to Spokane. She went to UMass Lowell. 2010, Sandy Lohr. Sandy was also the Coca-Cola scholar. She went to Tufts University and is currently at Tufts for a PhD in dentistry. 2011, John No. John went to Bentley University, and in present, he's an intern with Deloitte in Boston. 2013, Michael Richard. Michael Richard was also a Coca-Cola scholar, Boys State, Boys Nation, and is presently, I think a senior now. I think he's a senior at Harvard University. Dennis Zambrano went to Bowdoin College, where he is presently a junior and is in pre-med. In 2014, Christian Pineda he's in pre-med now, went to Princeton, and now is in pre-med at UMass Amherst. And if you remember, Christian and Michael Richard were the Double Dutch. Mm-hmm. You know, they did that whole campaign and were actually featured on a national poster for their work in healthy practices. Elena Valcourt is at Simmons in a nursing program. She's a sophomore there. Isaac Nelson is presently at UMass Amherst. So, Schuyler, you have this incredible, no pressure at all. But clearly you are just one in a long line of incredible students who have excelled in so many ways, but not only academically, but just as great human beings who are civic-minded and folks who give back. So with that, I want to present Schuyler Robinson to you, who is a senior at Fitchburg High School, who you know a little bit about from what you've read and what you've seen on a WCVB Channel 5. And I've invited him to come here, talk about his experience in the Fitchburg schools, and then what's it's been like to be a Channel 5 scholar and what his plans are. So welcome, Schuyler.
So, well, to start off, Fitchburg High School is possibly, one of the greatest things I've experienced, because there's just so many things that add up to make Fitchburg High School what it is. The faculty is the greatest faculty I've ever experienced the pleasure of knowing. And they are always there to help you, and they're always there to push you, and always there to have your back in a way that I've never had, except from my aunt and friends and that sort of thing. Along with that, there's a diverse body of students, which is really beneficial to learning, because there are a lot of students who have experiences that others do not, and they can share those. And Fitchburg High School also provides a comfortable environment in which they can share those in their classes and whatnot. Along with that, there's a wide array of academics, which anyone can participate in, and a high level of courses with, I don't even know how many APs they have now, but they provide, you can challenge yourself in ways that you wish to be challenged, or take initiative in classes which you wish to pursue in your future. And yeah, that's kind of my synopsis of the greatness of Fitchburg High School.
And what are your plans right now? What are you thinking
I'm
about
still
for the
waiting
future?
for well, I've applied to 7 colleges. I applied to Harvard, Columbia, NYU, UMass Amherst, UMass Dartmouth, UMass Boston, BU, Northeastern.
So
I'm still
you
waiting
haven't
for
applied to any
acceptance.
stretch universities, you just
Not really. Not really. Keeping it close.
just keeping it close, yeah. Yeah.
I want to major in English, and I want to teach English, actually.
You've done some work in theater?
Yeah,
What,
I've done theater all 4 years of high school. I don't even remember.
You were you started when we first brought the musicals back, right?
Yes,
So
yes, I
you've been
did.
in all 3.
All 3.
What have been your roles? Share what your roles have been in each of
my
those.
freshman year, I was invited to participate in the musical 2 weeks prior to the actual showing, and I played Vince Fontaine in Grease.
Oh,
My sophomore year, I played Mr. Mushnick in Little Shop of Horrors. My junior year, I actually helped with tech, and I was the Munchkin manager. I made sure all the little kids were ready and stuff.
That was definitely the toughest job of
Definitely, out of
Yeah.
all of them, it was the toughest. And this year, the cast list just came out. I'm playing the Jester in Once Upon a Mattress.
Yeah. Great.
Great.
So do you want to teach English at the secondary level?
Oh, at a high school level. I feel as though high school students they show a lot of potential, and as an English teacher, you can kind of teach them skills that they'll be able to use throughout their lives, just like with essay writing and writing just in general. And I feel as though that's something I wish to do.
So when you go on to college, are you planning on getting involved in theater at the university
There's a
level?
lot of
or-
things I want to get in. Yeah, I would say yeah.
I'll bet
Potentially.
you
I've
end
heard-
up in acting.
Oh, we need them.
Yeah? Not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing at all. I wouldn't complain.
Right.
But yeah.
Don't take them out of this.
All right.
I hope the first place you apply is back to Fitchburg. Huh?
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. And I haven't been able to pull this off yet, but one of the things we're going to do is you're going to get one of these ties. So this is the latest model of the Fitchburg tie. We just got the ties. I just got the boxes today. So the plan was that I was going to present one to you today for your work, but it's in the mail. You'll get it. You'll get it at the high school.
Thank you.
And hopefully you will wear it with pride, as I know you exude a lot of pride for the Fitchburg School. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And Ray Dorr is the new principal of Goodrich, and I asked Ray to come and talk about one of the new programs that's being developed at Goodrich on advanced manufacturing. And with him today is Megan Kozlowski, who is a student from Mount Wachusett Community College.
She's not a student from Mount Wachusett.
I just look very young. But
Okay, well, I'm going by what I'm given here. So,
She works there.
so you work there.
I'm a career coach at Mount Wachusett.
You're a career coach. You look like a student.
Thank
So,
you.
Megan is a career coach, and Jennifer Stevens, I won't even try to figure out what. So you are a staff member at Mount Wachusett. All right, so both staff members at Mount Wachusett. And I asked Ray to come here and talk about this new program and what the plans are. So welcome.
Thank you guys for having us. Right at the beginning of the school year, when I started, we were looking to see, geez, how can we get a van going so we can get our students from place to place? And Mr. Avenel suggested that we get in touch with Mount Wachusett because they have a couple of vans from their Gear Up program over at Fitchburg High School, and we're like, okay, maybe we can work something out. So we met a few times with Leanne Scales, who's one of the vice presidents at Mount Wachusett, and she had the bad news that we couldn't right now use their vans because they're writing us into their Gear Up grant for the next time around, but they would lose the grant money if they had other groups using it. So we were like, okay, what else can we do? And one of the really good ideas that we generated when we were talking is, hey, we have this new manufacturing lab program over at our Devens campus for Mount Wachusett, and this is a program that could probably be beneficial to a lot of your students who are looking at doing something hands-on after they graduate, who are looking to see what are some of the other possibilities. There are so many small manufacturers in this area who actually are always looking for people who are career and job ready. So how can we make this work? And so Megan came over a couple weeks ago and we talked, and she's actually volunteered, or maybe she was voluntold, to come back. She's going to come on March 18th to present sort of a mini, and maybe Jen will be coming too. You've been voluntold too, to present one of their things that they can do in terms of manufacturing to our students. And then from that, we're going to generate a field trip for interested students to go over on probably April 1st. Okay, it's not a joke, but we're going to be, so it'll be an opportunity for our students, and hopefully some students from Fitchburg High School as well. We'll invite them over for the presentation and then also for the field trip to come and see what's possible over there. And Megan and Jen are going to talk about that program in a second. And then if we can get that going, that would be a really wonderful way for us to grow our partnership with Mount Wachusett. They've been really good neighbors with us in terms of meeting and generating ideas, giving me contact information, but also saying, hey, these are some things we're talking about. And in fact, we have, I think, 11 of our students in the last week started dual enrollment programs with Mount Wachusett at Leominster High School, the Leominster campus of Mount Wachusett, and also Monty Tech. So we have, our kids are out there getting some college credits and getting some experiences in things like psychology and sociology, and really getting into that. Those are for the students who are college bent, but a reasonable number of our students aren't going to college, at least not initially. So what are some of the other things they can do? And I think Megan and Jen have a pretty good solution, and the cost is right for what they want to do. So I'm going to just throw it over to you guys.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. To give you kind of a little bit of a background, we are on a Department of Labor funded grant. So these programs, like the pamphlet you've received, the Industry Readiness Training, these are free programs currently. Through at least next March. We are currently looking at new grant opportunities to continue past next March, but we will be here until then. And as you mentioned, Ray, it's a great opportunity for students who are looking for something as an alternative to college and maybe get their interest back into another pathway that can lead them into potential college or long-term training. So the pamphlet that went around, the Industry Readiness Training, this is one of our programs. This program can lead into several other programs that we offer at Mount Wachusett, but this is a really good place to start for students who are maybe interested in manufacturing, who don't have a background in it, or are maybe just looking to learn a little bit more about it. There's really nothing that they can lose because it's a free program. Right. It's quick. They come in and out. It's 6 weeks. It's a full day. They come in Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 4. It is a job training program, so they're there. They're expected to show up on time. They're expected to respect their fellow classmates, just like they would do on the job. They get a half an hour lunch break. They're expected to return back on time and participate actively in class. And a lot of it's hands-on, and Jen can definitely speak a little bit more to the actual curriculum that's in the program itself. But they do a little bit of everything. They have their hard skills, so things like blueprint reading, quality, Excel, lean, electronics. They get a little bit of everything based on what the industry partners that we work with have told us that they want their entry and mid-level manufacturing employees to have coming in the door. In addition to that, they get success skills, so soft skills, things like communication, working with teams, resume writing, all of these types of things that are equally important to the hard skills, if not more important, what we're hearing from our manufacturing employers. And the final component of the coursework is some computer coursework, so math and reading is also included in that curriculum. And once they complete it, they get their certifications, and as a career coach, I help them to find employment in manufacturing in this area, and or to pursue further education. So if they're interested in quality, for example, we do have a certificate program in quality. So we have a 1-year certificate that also leads into a 2-year associate's degree in biotech with a focus in quality. If they're not interested in quality, we have robotics, or what we're calling mechatronics, so mechanical and electronics just kind of mushed together, working with those robots in the manufacturing companies. A lot of people think bringing robots into the manufacturing company eliminates jobs. Really what it does is it creates higher level positions so that you can actually get into a higher paying job and really excel in the workplace in manufacturing. And I think it's important to note it's not your grandfather's manufacturing. It's a clean, exciting, type of work. You know, we have manufacturers in the area that are working on pollution in Beijing. They're actually creating mirrors, an optics company creating mirrors to put on buildings in Beijing to study the pollution. We also have companies that are working on treatments for cancer and, you know, that kind of thing. It's a really interesting field to get into. And Jen, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about
Might as well.
the curriculum.
Sure.
Well, as Megan already brought up, we have curriculum involved in soft skills, but also blueprint reading, basic machinery, measurement tools for to go along with the quality program, and our mechatronics, which actually we're adding in for the first time this week. We're adding in a module on that where they'll actually be working with our miniature manufacturing line, and they'll be getting the system up and running. They'll be working with the robot, and they'll get a chance to have that experience. This 6-week program allows them to get a taste of manufacturing and what it's like today. Our manufacturers are really excited about the equipment that we've purchased. We have a tremendous amount of equipment on order at the moment. This year alone, I think we're spending about $450,000 on equipment to just build our program so we can sustain it. And all of our equipment is actually looked at by our manufacturers on the advisory board to make sure that it is something that would reflect their industries. We have other programs associated with this IRT also. We have a 6-week automation technician training program, which they just work on the mechatronics equipment and the robot. And currently that is under the grant too. It's also free. And we have many credited courses that are currently free to our students. 3 credit courses in computer-aided drafting, multiple levels of it, robotics, programming PLCs, which are what run the manufacturing equipment, pneumatics, hydraulics. And so we're continuously building this program, and we're very excited to present this to the students in the area as a potential path for them.
Great information. Questions from anyone?
Sure. How many students can you accommodate? And I see that there's you've got 1-year training programs and like that kind of thing. So how many students are we looking to serve?
Right now, we're capable of serving 14. That's the size of our classroom number of computers. If we hit that number, we are looking at buying more computers. We actually have a classroom that'll seat 21.
Wow.
So we can hold more. Courses in the mechatronics, that we're limited on to 14 students. Our equipment has 14 sections to it. We like to pair the students together. They get more out of it if they work in teams of 2
Yeah, I'm sure.
than if they were in teams of 3.
Just to follow up, so some years, I'm friends with Mark Freeman, who has Steel Fab, which is on Airport Road. And he's, I know right now he's full up on employees, but he is someone who has worked with our Chamber of Commerce, and he's really someone who's been a real proponent of schools and let these kids know that there are these manufacturing opportunities that pay quite a bit better than retail or, fast food. So please, can you put him, Mark Freeman, Steel Fab? Put him on your list of people to reach out to, because this is a great connection. And I'm so glad to see this, because he and I have had many conversations on getting that news forward to students. And I like what you said about this is not your grandfather's manufacturing. A lot of us did have grandfathers and great-grandfathers who spent our time in the mills and made it possible for us to do what we're doing. But manufacturing is what, the 4th biggest industry in Massachusetts? So it's a pretty significant, place for people to earn a wage. So thank you.
Thank you.
So how many Goodrich students are involved?
None yet. We're just this is new ground for us. So on March 18th, when they come, that's going to be the Goodrich and hopefully some Fitchburg High School students' introduction to it.
Right.
And hopefully we generate enough interest to fill a van or a bus to go over there, and then from that grow the interest of those kids who go.
That's
because,
my follow-up. Like,
yeah.
so, but in the time frame that you were talking, is that, you said 6 weeks?
It's a 6-week program, and we run it every 8 weeks.
So there's time to get in down the line. It's just a matter of introducing them to it.
But how does it work if you're going to school and that kind of stuff?
We'll figure things out. And, I think it's just a matter of, we'll see when it starts, when it goes, and how to make things work. Because I think these are hugely important skills that we can't teach these things. And we have a whole lot of recent graduates too, who are still sort of finding their way.
Right.
And those are kids that we're going to reach out to as well and say, hey, why don't you come and check this out? Because I think you don't want to have somebody think, oh, if only I had graduated next year instead of last year. So it's just a matter of how do we make the fit? How do we make it work? And it's free. The price is right. And this is a program that's growing. And I think I'd like, as much as possible, if it's in this area, we want to make it Fitchburg's as much as possible, as much as anybody else. And they'll take who comes in. But if we can generate the interest within Fitchburg, I'm happy to fill all the seats in one way, shape, or form.
And there will be opportunities to create some credit opportunities for this program. The trimester works really well with this kind of a setup of 8 weeks. So there's just a lot of things, and I want to thank Ray for reaching out. I send a lot of this stuff along, or say, here, call this person, or make a connection, and it doesn't always get done, and it's sometimes there's a lot going on in their lives. So to do that, to reach out, and to both of you to really be focused on what we're doing. We want to get as many kids involved in this as we can, and it's just a nice mix for them, especially in their schedules, to have some academics and some practical experience and the like. So thank you. Great.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Are there employers lined up ready to hire students who complete this program?
Yes, so we have an advisory board of CEOs in the area that they help to create our curriculum, and they also help to hire our graduates as well. So at the end of our 6-week session, we have a graduation. We invite all of our employers. It's open. We obviously can only accept so many, but we actually have an employer networking session. So they actually are going around speaking to each individual employer, and it's 5 or 10 minutes they get to chat with each employer, so kind of like a speed interview. And we've had several students who have actually gotten offers based off of just that interaction with the employer.
If you can remember when you have that graduation to send an invitation to me that I can share with the school committee, so
Please.
that anyone who wants to attend can, because then it also shows the employers the interest on the part of the school committee and on the part of us for these kind of partnerships.
Sure,
So
I'll pass
thank
it
you.
along to Ray.
All right, great. Thank you.
How long has this program been going, Jen? We were at several weeks ago, you had the advanced manufacturing folks, and I think Mark Freeman was one of those people that was there. What we found to be the challenge, or what those business individuals found to be the challenge, is that we don't market your kinds of programs well enough, particularly to students. You're at Goodrich Academy. The high school, we can do a better job of communicating and bringing parents in. That seemed to be the key issue as well. Because if you sell the parent, you sell the kid, usually.
And that's why they went out of their way to be here tonight. And, and I think this is the beginning of working with Mount Wachusett as much as possible, because we're resources for each other. Wednesday, I'm meeting with people from the Chamber of Commerce to try to see what some of their needs are and what they can do for us. And I think everyone that I've reached out to has been so receptive and so positive about working with Fitchburg kids and Goodrich kids and stuff. I think it's fantastic.
That cutting edge equipment you showed us also, just very impressive stuff. A lot of money there.
It is.
Yeah.
I think the more we can just build that culture for kids, and I think it's happening everywhere, but more so certainly than when we were younger, that the mission of high school is to figure out what you're going to do after it, right? So it's really important to learn the soft skills and all the technical skills that you can. And I think it meets a huge need, because so many kids are, who might want vocational training aren't able to get vocational training. And I don't think everybody always understands that a comprehensive high school is sort of not able to do those things because of a lot of laws, but so this is perfect. This is perfect.
I think it meets needs in a lot of different directions, and I'm really excited about it. And so, you know, Megan is a student at Fitchburg State, and she's defending her master's. She is defending her master's thesis in about 3 weeks.
Okay.
So good luck with her on that one.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Go ahead, John.
The field trip request, AMC White Mountain field trip. Jonathan, you've never been here to request a field trip before.
I have not.
If you're going on a White Mountain field trip, you're supposed to come totally decked out like a climber, and you do a whole thing.
Lourdes said she wanted to rein me in.
She did want to rein you in.
I left the boots at home.
So, a short version of what you're asking in terms of the field trip.
Certainly. You must have got some of the information from the secretary as well. Basically, it's all about an opportunity to bring McKay kids on a trip that is basically identical to the one that Longshore Middle School is also doing. It's a 4-day trip. It gives them an opportunity to meet cross-curricular standards in science, math. There's also a language arts piece that we work on when they get back home, and, of course, geography as well. It's about an opportunity that I was jealous of that Longshore was doing that I wanted to do as well. Having been born and bred in the Granite State, I love the mountains. I used to be a member of the AMC a long, long time ago, and I want to just open that opportunity and the same type of fun that I had when I was young to McKay kids.
This is similar to the one you've been doing, so. Yeah,
Correctly. She's training me.
You could not
training
do
me.
better for a trainer for field trips.
Apparently, McKay used to do a trip like this about 5-6 years ago. So the teachers and I of the 6th grade put out a survey to make sure that there was interest, and more than half the student body of the 6th grade replied and said they would be interested.
No,
So-
that's great.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's definitely something that they're looking forward to, and it is a tight time frame, but we're gonna do a heck of a lot of fundraising before then, and the kids are on board for it as well.
May I ask?
Certainly.
I did see that the cost per student is $250, which
Give or take,
which
because
I
it
get.
also includes transportation. But
sure. So I guess my wonder is, with your fundraising, you're going to try to fundraise, but and doing it at the Long Show, what is the student going to have to give in? Because $250 is a lot for a 6th grader.
certainly,
In a
and what we do,
household.
maybe Jen can speak on this as to past performances, because again, this is brand new to me. We're looking at candy sales. We're looking at T-shirt sales. We're looking at one of those like restaurant nights where you can go to like Uno's or Applebee's and get that 20%. How much typically in the past have students paid for
buy-in.
from their own pocket? Thank you.
Sorry. Hi,
Would the chair recognize Jen Fisher from Longshow, please?
So we found in the past, it depends on how motivated the parents are for raising money for the trip. We've had parents that have, participated 100% in the different, they get the candy bars, take them, sell them outside of school, and they pay for their trip. And we've done Yankee Candle, that was pretty successful. There's some other T-shirt sales that have gone on that have been pretty successful. So it depends on really the parents, how much they're willing. Sometimes it's easier just to give the check for the whole amount, because we run into it again when we go to Washington.
Okay.
So it's...
So there's a minimum you're going to need, right?
Yeah.
Minimum number of students?
Not for the AMC trip, no.
They're willing to work with any number. They have been fantastic throughout the entire process. Jen got started a lot earlier than I did, but I have been in constant contact with a few of the members up at the AMC, and they're always trying to make things work for us, so they have been fantastic.
I think one of what might be your question is, are there students who are not able
Right,
to participate?
isolating
And
population.
I think I can say, and you've been watching this longer than I have, is that any time we sponsor anything like this, all the effort goes into that no one is turned away at the door.
Right. We also offer
And
scholarships.
that's been a big focus of the school committee all the time, is that we want to continue to do these kinds of opportunities and not say we can't, just like we're going to see later in terms of after-school programs. And yet, people work very much, on the side and around to make sure that if there's somebody that wants to attend, find a way to contribute what you can, and then, every effort is made so that they can participate.
Perfect.
And I think you've done enough of these to,
We passed the hat, this one particular kid last year really wanted to go. We were able to get all the money for the AMC trip in 2 weeks for this one family to go. I was determined to get this kid to go, so I was asking everybody, can anyone throw in $10 for this kid? Or, and we make sure all the kids can go that want to go.
Thank you.
It becomes a real commitment of the school to make sure everybody who wants to go can go.
Thank you.
could I ask that this be taken out of order so that we could vote for this? And
Yes.
Sure.
I make a motion, we take this out of order.
Motion made to take the item out of order. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's before you.
And the action item is 15652.
Set it right there.
Yeah, I just want to say this is wonderful, and I speak as a geology major, and that New Hampshire has very confusing geology, as Fitchburg does as well, but it'll be familiar to students, and I think that your willingness to do this, but to have, Jen helping mentor is so key, because for our kids to have out of Fitchburg experiences, I think is critical. And just an FYI, in my 3 years as vice chair, I was not shy about asking school committee to help support students for Boys State or just things like that. So I'll talk to Beth, or Beth and the mayor can talk, and we're very happy to help. Please keep in touch. I have some magnifying glasses I would be happy to gift.
Great.
Okay? So my child goes to McKay. Stay in touch. I have a bunch. So every kid should have their own magnifying glass, absolutely.
Definitely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, we're going to vote on action item 15-652, numbers 15 and 16, to approve the superintendent recommends to allow the McKay Arts Academy 6th grade students to plan a trip to AMC White Mountains, New Hampshire, potential date of June 7th and June 10th, 2016. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve the trip.
Second.
Second. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you
Can I just say
for your time. I appreciate it.
So you got McKay, you got Longjoe.
I'm
Time to
working
put
on
some
it.
pressure on Memorial, right?
Working on it.
Right.
Working on it.
Good.
Sixth graders in Memorial would love to go to AMC too, and I know that's not your school, but
I'm working.
you have
can make it happen.
everybody. People should understand, like when you guys all do great things, every school wants to do it, right? So I think that's a call out to Memorial.
I'm willing to help.
All
you
right.
know.
I'm a big proponent of any field trips with K to 12, getting our kids out of state,
Yep.
in state, wherever, and expose them, because a lot of our kids, I know, Jen will say, when they get on that bus for Washington, when they cross the state line, they've never been out of state, you know, and,
They don't leave your side.
yeah, it's, so,
And thanks for all the work you're doing to organize Washington D.C. That's huge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, I'd like to call Pam up. Pam is going to give you an update on our program and the program that she's been working on. You have a very long PowerPoint slides in your packet, and we have abridged those slides for the presentation tonight. So basically, it's going to give her a chance to touch on all of the basic components of our program, but you'll have a lot more information for you to look at later. So, Pam, take it away.
Okay, all right. So good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight to represent the Essential School Health Services and the related programs and the work that our nurses do. So we start off with Welcome to February, Heart Healthy Month. And here is an actual visual right at South Street that includes health promotion habits, things that are taught early on that absolutely result in a lifetime of benefits for all. So it incorporates the health care, it incorporates attendance, having the children healthy and able to attend, and it improves overall achievement outcomes.
And I have to say, that's a bulletin board down at South Street, and when I came down, first it was a blank bulletin board, and I came down 2 days later, and this is the work of the nurses that are doing this. So to just really do things like that just draw attention and really capture everybody.
And the students and staff
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Really, it's very positive. So to continue on with the achievement outcomes, the first things we do in working with the staff members is to rule out any barriers to learning. Here are the mandated screenings that are conducted, and based on those, follow-up is in place if need be. One of the other barriers to learning that is not here but is also part of our practices in conjunction with the Community Health Center is the dental screenings. And dental problems are the #1 reason for absenteeism. So, nurses, along with other staff members, collect all sorts of data. There's different information gathered to inform trends, focus on areas of needs, and the ability to meet all of the students' learning. Here are some special health care conditions that students do come to us with. These are some of the practices that are carried out. The important part is that there are healthcare professional nurses who are in every building, full-time, able to treat all of the students, make sure that they are ready to learn and able to attend. This also points to part of the rubrics of evaluation and all, and teaching all students. Through the plans with the asthma and diabetes, we use instructional and clinical practices that reflect high expectations. We're learning with the students, personalizing their care, accommodating their learning styles, their needs, their interests, and again, their readiness to learn. One of the wonderful partnerships connected with this is our partnership with the specialists at UMass Medical Center, and those are with the asthma and diabetes pediatric specialists. Other special health care conditions are illustrated here, and again, the importance is the engagement with the families, the connections that we can, again, provide through the partnerships and focus on their readiness and ability to learn. It speaks to the safe and effective school community environments in meeting the diverse needs. So social emotional health is another one of those diverse needs and part of healthcare. So here we have a picture from our most recent health fair at the high school, and one of our nurses is conducting yoga instruction with the students. Students are so receptive to this. It has clearly ongoing benefits. The other practice throughout our schools is the mindfulness. And you go around the schools, and whether it's classrooms and or school communities, to practice these meditative type, breathing and just taking a moment to refocus the students on learning. This is also part of well-being. The well-being focus, the mindfulness. This gives you a little bit of information about what's happening across Massachusetts and clearly the supportive benefits. So not everybody can come up with the words. One of the things that we try to do, and another visual throughout the nurse's office, is there's boards where students can be interactive with. They can be conversation starters. They can cue different things to get the students engaged in the conversation in meeting their needs. Another poster is an example of, what you can say to somebody, how you can help them, how you can show your support in that way. And the nurses do a great job of this. They're also professional and responsible for medical emergencies. And these are medical emergencies whether we know about a pre-existing condition or we do not, and we need to be present and active, connect with our community partners, and make sure that the students have the life-saving equipment and the life-saving procedures so that they can go on in their lives. There are several programs and initiatives, protocols and procedures that continue to educate, support, and address the medical and safety needs. Some of those that we partner with, and might be a follow-up to the Rachel's Challenge, is one of our partners, in addition to our partnership with UMass and a Lifelines program, is our partnership most recently with the SHINE initiative, and that will further the mental health awareness, a student-focused group, in order to further support each other through that. This is an example of the number of students that are seen in the nurse's office each day. It literally equates to about 1 to 2 busloads of students. The important takeaway here is that the students are known to the nurses. The nurses are very well aware of the student population. They interface with them. It's a safe place, and it also supports the importance of the communication that goes on, and it supports the fact that the members are part of multiple teams, whether it's in the school and or in the community, advocating for the needs, not only in their health but their education. Additional posters at all the different levels, as you can see, in conjunction with nutrition services and supporting nutritional and physical activities, healthy habits that go on for a lifetime. So we know, we've heard about, health promotion, but this is health promotion in relation to brain promotion and the academic achievement outcomes. And you literally see the visual of what it looks like and the importance of that. And furthering that, the achievement outcomes are illustrated here as well. So, we are indeed teaching students lessons and improvements that will go on throughout their lifetimes, beyond the school day, and the ultimate goal is optimal health, overall achievement. And I thank you for your time and welcome any questions.
Hi, Jackie. Where is this? This was in our packet. Where's this bulletin board?
The welcomes? Yeah. Those were 2 different display boards. So one is right out in Memorial as you walk in, that the nurses put together. The other was the welcome board at the beginning of the school year at South Street prior to the February bulletin board that was put up.
That's a beautiful message.
Thanks. It is.
It's interesting. I think you all, did you get that article that I took out of the Boston Globe?
On the charter schools?
Yeah, and I had one of my little rants. But it was an article in the Boston Globe about a charter school, and it listed all of the unique and innovative things that they were doing. And I basically took the article, and all of those things we've been doing in our school system for 15 years, 20 years. In terms of dental care and nutrition and even the mindfulness piece and all of that. And, it's just a reminder that we do a good job of doing the work. We don't always do a good job of informing the public of what we do. And that's one of the reasons why, I have people coming up here all the time and talking about it. Because if you haven't been in school in 25 years, you have no idea how much they've changed. And the kind of things that are going on and the kind of work that's happening. The work in diabetes. We're one of the few school systems in Massachusetts that's done the level of training and working with families, with diabetes as part of their, and that's all happening in the schools. So it's just a reminder again to everybody that the schools really take on a lot. And you're also involved very much with Bob in our emergency preparedness. All the work now that has to be done in terms of emergency preparedness. I was at a superintendent's meeting this morning. By 9 o'clock, there had been 9 more bomb scares in Massachusetts. So that, that's the new norm, a new reality that we have to deal with. And to have people that you can go to that, we know that in our schools, people know what to do and all, it's a big plus.
It is a big plus. And, I'd like to just speak to the level of the nurses and in their preparedness. They practice the emergency preparedness through their staff throughout, through actual situations and or drills, with debriefing afterwards. I'm very pleased to say that there literally has been very recent, life-saving measures that have been done. The other thing, we talked about the trips, the field trips, the overnight trips. I'm a huge proponent on that extended education as well, whether it's before school, after school activities, overnight. But I'm also a huge proponent on having them done safely. And again, having the needs met, making sure that everything is known, covered, and they're provided for. So, Sally, you had...
Well, I just actually had a comment. So what the superintendent said, Mayor, is That's within the realm of our executive, the executive meeting, or the executive subcommittee. So talking about what we're doing, getting it out to the wider world, and and Jana also comes to those meetings. It seems to me, I'll connect with Beth because we probably should get something going just on this health front. I've been elected secretary of Division 9. Division 9 is all the urban districts in Massachusetts. I'm reaching out to different school committee members across the state, looking to sort of, gain some momentum, because that's a lot of muscle. That's 80% of our school kids, our urban kids. And the fact that we are so far in the forefront with the diabetes, the social, emotional, the wellness, and the rest of it, that we need to really strategize on, one, making sure that everyone here in the community knows it, but also maybe the Boston Globe should be getting a response to that letter, to really make it clear to them.
Responding as a superintendent's association.
Are you?
I
Great.
get everybody riled up.
Oh, good for you. Well done.
Pam, we seeing any changes on obesity numbers or anything?
They've been pretty consistent, to be quite honest. I mean, little bumps as far as improvement, but fairly consistent. And I'm not terribly surprised, because if you look at it, pretty much a 10-year projection before you'll really see improvements. The positive around that is there have been a lot of initiatives connected with the schools and the community, and they're still being addressed, to further the benefits of, the exercise, the healthy offerings, in multiple supports, even with our, community health center hospitals and also. So that's ongoing. I do meet. I coordinate and run health advisory meetings, which is connected between the schools and the communities. In fact, I invite any of the school committee members to participate. I'll send out an invite.
Yeah,
but
please
that
do.
happens 4 times a year, and we do revisit the initiatives that are ongoing around that. So.
Pam, what's the next thing coming down the pike, as it were? I know that I seem to be meeting more children who are gluten intolerant, and I know that probably makes food service people very concerned, because that's their realm. But what do you see on the uptick? What is sort of on the rise?
So we just, I don't know if it's speaking to on the rise, but I just met with Joe Lucius from Nutrition Services and Hillary Stanford, and we had a discussion about the specifics of the milk, not just the milk allergies, but the milk intolerances, and the follow-up that you need medically from the doctors, and information from the families. So I think it's potentially not so much, the allergens or things that are going to be on the rise, but the specifics to them. So is the intolerance, you still have to have something else in place, so you have to, provide other nutrients in order to make sure that, again, the child is nourished, but that they're nourished safely, and it's not something that's going to be distressing to them.
Wow, that sounds really challenging, because your alternatives for calcium are not great.
Yeah.
What, chalk?
Broccoli.
Well, there are a lot of nutrients in a brownie, right? We've had that conversation.
Dark chocolate, yeah.
Well, thank you, Pam, and great information. And if you want to dive deeper into the presentation, you have a lot more information in your packets. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, it's time to get an update and a report on our McKinney-Vento grant. And there were 3 people, at least, who were very, very involved in the McKinney-Vento effort. Paula is one of them, clearly, but also Linda Nicolopoulos and Kathleen Nemi. So they're going to come up and join us and talk about the work of our McKinney-Vento. Thank you, ladies. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So thank you. I'm going to start this off. In your packet is a mid-year report that Kathleen has prepared. Kathleen is the district liaison for the McKinney-Vento grant, but more totally for the McKinney-Vento program. It's a federal act that we adhere to, respond to, that provides contacts at the school department and some level of services and attention to service coordination for students as they experience homelessness. There's a list of federal criteria that dictates that identification for McKinney Mckinney-Vento eligibility. And then in addition to that, so whether we had a grant or not, we'd still have to respond to the McKinney-Vento conditions. But Kathleen writes a grant every year to our Department of Education to provide some level of resources for students who experience homelessness due to fire, families that double up, unaccompanied youth. And this report details where some of those funds are expended. This is a regular grant that's audited on a regular basis. We communicate also regularly with our contact at the Department of Ed, Sarah Slaughterback. She was just here recently for Kathleen runs a meeting several times a year. Sarah was just here to attend the meeting. So this gives you an idea of the scope and breadth of, it's a broad program, but it's also very detailed. And I know over the vacation period during the holidays, there was a fire and a family experienced homelessness. So with a new mayor and a new school committee member, we thought we just wanted to give you some idea that who we are, put a face to a name. Folks can contact, if you have questions or concerns, can contact Kathleen, Linda, or myself. But I just wanted to give Kathleen and Linda a couple of minutes to chat with you as well and answer questions if you have any.
Well, thank you for having us. I'm Kathleen. I would just like to start to have us take a moment just quickly and think about, I think everybody in this room can reflect on one of our most favorite movies, The Wizard of Oz. And if you think about Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, she was happy, she had a dream, she had a lot of people caring for her, but in reality, she was an unaccompanied youth. Because as far as we can tell in that story, her parents are never mentioned.
No.
She's living with Auntie M, and there's no mention of her being her legal guardian, and she had a lot of uncles and farmhands, and she was in good hands and being taken care of, and she certainly had all of her needs met. But we have a lot of unaccompanied youth up at the high school and at Goodrich in particular that are really struggling, and this grant has certainly helped them a great deal. Because the grant, by having this, we have the funding available that can provide all of the needs that they need as far as with sports and school supplies and bedding and hygiene items, and it helps level the playing field so that they can participate in school. The two last speakers are reasons why it's good that, number one, we have the act for the state that identifies that we have to have a district liaison in all the schools, because by doing so, we can determine which students are homeless. And the nurses are a vital part once they find out who those students are, because our students aren't sleeping well, they're hungry, they need clothes, and they help them a lot. And we have we have 5 established food pantries, and the nurses help a great deal with that, in addition to staff who donate and a lot of community donations. The other schools actually are being helped by Chiara Andrucci, so we thank her for that as well. By having the funds, we can help Jonathan Flahan, because when he gets his field trip going up to New Hampshire, those are the types of things that the funding has been able to help. So the grant would pay for all those students that would like to go that won't have that fee to go. So it's the same with the Washington trip, the 8th grade trip, which is about $625 per student, and we usually pay 8 to 13 students field trip fees for that. So it's a good portion of the grant, but it's money well spent. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them, and then I'll turn it over to my
partner in crime,
Linda Nicolopoulos, who does the transportation piece.
Now we're going to get it out right on television.
No, we're behaving tonight.
Aren't we all?
So this number, the 317, I was glad you had the breakdown. 28 in shelters, 30 unaccompanied youths, 17 in hotels and motels, 21 placed in temporary foster care, One living at a campground. This family has since transferred out of state. Living at a campground, it's January. 220 doubling up with friends or relatives. Do you find that our homeless children are homeless for a year, 3 months, 2 years?
It varies.
Grades and grades and grades.
It really does. It varies. We have, of course, right now the movement in the state is to get them out of motels. They're
Right.
realizing it's not conducive for them to be in motels. But they're moving them into shelters. And they're moving them into some transitional apartments and living situations. But I recently heard from Sarah when she came to our meeting last month that they are backfilling into the hotels again because they don't have enough shelter space for beds. So there is a lot of movement. They have very short notice. It could be just
Right.
up to an hour. They can only take 2 black bags, trash bags as it is, filled with their belongings, which was heartbreaking for students that were being moved after Christmas because they got a lot of toys and things and they couldn't take them all. So it's very sad, and we really need to find them housing. The doubled up families, you think, well, they're probably in a better spot, but I think if I lived with one of my sisters for a real long time, it might be difficult because their families aren't equipped to have you there. They don't have extra bedrooms. They don't have real beds. The beds are changing every night, either on an air mattress or a sleeping bag or on the couch, so they're not sleeping well. They don't have adequate places to do their homework. There's a lot of people using a shower. So it can be difficult for them as well. And we find that that's what happens. After a period of time, it wears thin and they move on to another relative or another friend. So there's a lot of movement. And if they're lucky to find permanent housing, which some do, they tend to relocate and change. And some of them will want the transportation so their children can stay in their school of origin, and others want a fresh start, and they just move out.
I had a friend who became homeless this past few weeks, and I watched this process. Her building ended up getting condemned. Her child is older, he is an adult, but I saw this process, the Board of Health coming in. I saw the different steps and the different city participants, and my friend ended up at a motel and living alongside a child whose parent had also been Board of Health had condemned the building, and the child is one of our kids in school. So it's so pervasive, and honestly, it's the thing that when I speak to people about the work we do on school committee and about what the nature of Fitchburg is, that's the most surprising thing, that we have this many homeless children, and the consistency of our teachers to again working with kids who come in who may be wearing the same clothes for 3 or 4 or 5 days in a row, whatever it is. There are those indicators, but I see you also have a list on donations, and thank you, Pete and Claudia Stevens, because they've made some very wonderful donations, as well as institutions like Our Father's House and MIHN and WIC and Market Basket gift cards, as well as of course Kira Andrucci. Tell us what we can do and what the public can do. And I know there are clothes at all schools and clothes in all sizes at all schools. Are there any emergency pressing needs, anything? I mean, someone watching this tonight, what could they do? What could they do to help?
It's really the consumable items, food, a lot. I mean, the pantries are basically the types of foods that would bridge the gap from the time they get out of school Friday afternoon until Monday when they're back having their free breakfast and lunch.
Yeah.
But the students are always looking for some type of snacks and things to take with them. Laundry detergent, because at the high school the students are doing their own laundry at their friends'. Gift cards, donated gift cards that the students could use because of the fact it helps them feel like they're contributing to their host families. If these students are in school, some of them may have part-time jobs or not, and they just would like to contribute somehow. So by bringing some food or laundry detergent and items like that. It's very helpful. And
Yeah.
we've heard a lot. I mean, there are a lot of kids couch surfing and living with friends. And there was one student I heard about up at the high school a couple of years ago that when it was nice weather, he preferred to stay outside in a tent because he just felt like he wasn't so intrusive into the family. And he went in to use the shower and the bathroom and have his meals, but he really wanted to take care of himself. So I thought that was very, very sweet and very touching. But so they're aware of their situation, they're trying to help themselves, but they do need our help. So we would appreciate any donations. We don't turn away anything. So thank you for asking.
The other one that's really important is toiletries.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, right, you go into CVS, you don't walk out of there for under $30 by the time you've bought deodorant and toothpaste and everything else. So those are things that, you know, I think people need to feel like they're part of, you know, a normal process. And yet, if you're making a choice between toiletries and food, you're going to spend your money on food. So, and that's also something that doesn't go bad or anything like that. Linda, did you want to add your component to this? Have anything to add?
Well, I think that when she was talking about that, some of the families are put into shelters and places, hotels and motels, and they do move at the drop of a hat. I mean, within an hour, we can have a child that might have been in Leominster that may now be in Worcester in a shelter. It presents some transportation challenges for me also because I may have a van going to that hotel one morning, and by the afternoon, I don't know where that family has gone, or I might have to find it out from the school, or my Worcester counterparts, who are wonderful, will call me and say, now the family is here, and then we have to try to scramble to get transportation for that child because we try to get them into school as quickly as we can. With so many McKinney-Vento now in our cities and state, the vendor issue is becoming more challenging for me. I mean, there are just not a lot of them out there. And plus, you just don't want to stick a child into a cab or you're going to make sure that whatever you put them in is going to be a safe environment for them. And they have enough issues in their lives without being worried about how they're going to get to school or if the person that's driving them, it's going to be a safe transport. So there are many challenges in the transportation end of it, too. I mean, we have people moving within the city who they've gone to another school, but we have to get them back. They might not live on a bus route, or they may not be a walker, so we have to set up transportation for them also. But I think it's the movement that's the hardest, is to try to make things as normal and as fluid as we can for them. So it's becoming harder and harder, but Kathleen and I have, come up with some creative solutions for some things, and other communities, I may have to call on them to help me set them up if they're living in another community. But everybody's been very cooperative.
Well, I'd like to thank you because this is actually, they have jobs at the school department, and this is another job within their job.
Right.
And
and I can tell you, watching these two, it's not a job.
No.
They really take it on. It's very emotional because what they hear and what they see every day with some students is very difficult. And they're there to help solve the problem. So thank you for that, and Paula for working on the grant and all.
Just a quickie. So my anecdotal observations over the years have been there's a lot of ping-ponging between Fitchburg and Leominster. That children who are in Fitchburg might end up in Leominster briefly and then back in Fitchburg. Can you talk a little bit about how are we working with the Leominster schools and their homeless, like their McKinney-Vento population? Because I think, I'm not sure if our mayors, if this has come across your table yet. Do we have any cooperation, collaboration? How many kids do go back and forth?
Well, it's really around where the sites are that the children are located. And for the past year or so, the 2 motels in Leominster have been large concentrations for students. But they actually come from all over the state.
Right.
So they may be residing physically at those motels, but transferred back and forth to wherever. And we have systems in place to facilitate communication with every community. So whether it's Leominster or Worcester or Gardner or Winchendon, that's what we're responsible for doing. With the moves, we had a lot of questions for Sarah Sarah Slaughterback when she was here, because with the move to, and they're not closing the motels, but they're really limiting the number of families because they are not conducive to good, healthy places for families to live. We asked her, and she's researching, we asked her a lot of questions about the housing for now increased numbers of shelters or subsidized apartment living. And she was, frank. She said there are parts of the state where that kind of alternative housing doesn't exist. The Cape, when they're moving people out of the motels, there aren't units for shelters on the Cape. So those families will be relocated to other parts of the state. So it's not just Leominster, it's really from all over.
But your Fitchburg-Leominster area is pretty good, working with the people and the families in the area. There are laws that are on the books. There's one where you can only stay in the motel or hotel for 30 days. And when I was at the Cape, I had one health inspector kind of bragging how they moved them out after 30 days. It didn't make any difference. They just get settled, and then your 30 days are up and you have to go someplace else. And that was an affluent community, up the 495 route. And, we don't do that. Our Board of Health doesn't do that in Fitchburg. We look out for the people, and that's more important than they've been in there 30 days or so.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate your work and what you do to reach out to our students in need.
Yeah,
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
All right, well, just like the health presentation, you have a packet that's a lot thicker than the slides that I'm going to show. Basically, I'm going to run through, this was the customer survey packet. Get this? Okay, all right, so just as well, then you can follow along on the slides and, not be distracted. But I'll fill in some of you've gotten this probably a number of times. It's the customer survey info, and what I've tried to do is just compile it. This is what we're up to. We had 488 responses that took the English-speaking survey, and 30 that took it totally in Spanish.
Wow.
And just for people at home, this is an initiative that started in some of the subcommittees in terms of, what can we do to find out? Let's take a test of where everyone is at in the district. So we went back and forth on a number of questions, and Jeannie, I know you and your husband helped in working and finalizing the survey. And then the survey has been open since we put it out on SurveyMonkey. And I've decided to, just pretty much use only the visuals, and they give you a sense of size and what school does your child attend. So this kind of shows that pretty much it's pretty square round, in terms of the number of people who took the survey, and a little bit less in Crocker and a little bit less in Lonjo also, but everything else seems to be pretty evenly distributed. Here are the percentages of participation. So you can even see that the percent, it doesn't look as different on the percentages as it does when you put it in a chart. Then grade level.
Wow.
Yeah.
This was an interesting one, in terms of, where is the interest? And really, it kind of stays pretty steady right straight through to 7th grade. And then it starts to dwindle a little bit, But I thought as a picture, it gives you kind of a vision of, the people who took the survey, and they could have taken it more than once. So the way we set it up is that if you had 3 children in 3 different schools, you could take the survey 3 times. and respond. Then in terms of the ethnicity, what is the highest level of education? You know, this too. You know, sometimes there's this sense that, well, we're not quite sure how many people have higher education. This really tells you quite a bit, you know, in terms of the number that has some college. Really, that whole bottom quadrant from the dark blue all the way across to the green is saying, you know, that there's already some college there, some college experience. In the past year, how often have you visited your child's school? So, weekly or more, monthly, every few months. So if you put all these, you know, put these three together, you've got almost 3/4 of, you know, 75%, 67 or so percent. And then once or twice per year, those might be the ones who just go to the open houses. But look at almost never. Very small group, small percentage of almost never. In the past year, how often have you met in person with your child's teacher? Once or twice. Look at the number. You know.
Is that enough, though?
What's that?
Is that enough?
Well, you know.
Maybe if there's not a problem, I guess it's okay.
Well,
right?
I think that's what happens. Enough is 100%. That would be enough if everybody met with their child's teacher. But I have to say, even as, you know, a parent, you know, through all the years both of my kids were in school, you know, there were years where the tendency was if there's not a problem and you've gone to open house, you didn't meet with your child's teacher a whole lot. You know, I don't think this is a different question than how involved are you, how many conversations, what's been the interactions. This is how often have you met with in person with your child. And think about it. How often do a lot of parents actually meet in person with their child's teacher?
We're getting a lot of teachers are sending home emails to.
Well, that's going to show up in here too. In the past year, how often have you helped out at your child's school? Here's an area where we, you know, this is where what we're looking for are trends here and areas that are real weaknesses or real strengths, and then, you know, how could we work on them? You've got a small group that's meeting weekly or more, monthly. Do you receive regular communication from your child's principal and or teacher? Again,
that's good.
You know, there's just a small group that says almost never, but really regularly is huge. So that's talking about regular communication from the principal or teacher. Is this information useful? Really happy to see this.
Yeah.
Yes is a big chunk, and sometimes, so very few people said, no, this is not useful information. Are you familiar with the parent portal called X2? More people are not familiar with it than familiar with it. And we were looking for this kind of information. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the retreat and, you know, where our goals are and the things we have to focus on. This is a priority because good communication will increase, you know, really increase the results.
Are we going to get this information to the principals to get out to their
They've
staff?
already gotten it.
They've got it.
The principals have gotten it. We haven't. I'm looking to put it in a format that's just, you know, more succinct and clear, and then they'll get it out to them.
School specific?
School specific, yeah. And then are you familiar with the, put that one in twice. Have you used X2 Portal to check on your child's progress? Yes, I check it regularly. So if this is 25%, this is really only about 18%. So this is a little bit more of a quarter. Yeah. So we can see this is an area that we have a ton of potential there. And that's actually, you know, a part of our conversation with negotiations in terms of really using all of our communication opportunities with parents. Would you contact, who do you contact if you have any questions concerning your child's school? The teacher is 50% of the people contact the teacher, and both. So, again, people know. They know how to reach out. They know how to communicate to the school if they need to. Does a staff member return your inquiries in a timely manner? Again, almost 75% said always. If you add the sometimes, there's a very small sliver.
Too many.
Of people who said, you know, someone has not returned or gotten back to me on a particular inquiry.
That shouldn't happen.
Does your child feel a sense of belonging at his or her schools? So again, between tremendous amount and a fair amount, it's a pretty good chunk, and then a little bit. So this is the not at all. You know, those are the ones where you would want to, school by school, with the school data, is reach out and start to find out, well, why? You know, why would that be the case? And then, you know, this is also perception, but parents know their kids.
You know if your kid is happy.
They know if their kid is happy.
Yeah.
Do the teachers and administrators at your school treat your child with respect? You know, really please, this is a big chunk. This is not sure. It's obviously not in their face or an issue that there isn't. And then this is the group. So this is the area that we have to dig deeper and find out, what does that mean? I mean, for someone it could be, you know, my child has had a discipline issue, and, you know, that's left a bad taste in their mouth. It could be a lot of things. Do you think your child's school is safe? Again, about the same amount, actually. That graph is almost identical to the graph before. But, you know, the majority, at least 75%, say yes. The others, not sure, means not something that they're worrying about. So we'd look here in that section there. Do you think your child's school is clean? Those of you who've been on the committee all these years, you know, I would have loved to ask that question 10 years ago. But we got a strong yes.
Yes would have been in
there.
the blue.
Yes would have been, really, yes would have been the blue 10 years ago. But now it's 75% are saying absolutely, somewhat, and then you've got some no, and then no could, you know, you'd have to look specifically as to what that is. Are you greeted warmly by the staff at your child's school? The always gets, you at least want to see that be the biggest percentage, the sometimes, and the never. You know, that's the part that we talk a lot about that. You know, there always has to be someone in that school who's greeting a parent, you know, in a friendly manner and making them feel welcome because it's their school, not our school. Are your school events run professionally? Again, these are interesting. These graphs, there's like 4 or 5 of the graphs, you could almost superimpose them in terms of, and they're really about, I think if I had to say it, it's satisfaction.
Yeah.
It's kind of like big question overall satisfaction. And, you know, we've got this little wedge that, you know, you need to work on. If this were a business model, right, and a customer base, you'd be trying to figure out, you'd be digging down, who are those customers?
Well, this is the aggregate too, right? So
Right.
If, you know, if you
Right.
look school by school, I think that becomes kind of an
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and that's where each school will get their own school's feedback. Is your child is doing well socially at school? Again, you know, if you add all of these are big, like, overall satisfaction percentages as far as I'm concerned. You know, we'd be in trouble if this was the yes. Has your child been bullied in school?
Ooh.
So a little bit over 15%, 25% say yes. Now, I can't remember, I don't think we put the definition of bullying on the survey.
It wasn't on there.
It wasn't on there, which would skew these results, because bullying is a repeated, that has to take place over a period of time, and it has to be repeated. And common sense sometimes says, if my child was, somebody swore at them or, you know, pushed them in the hallway, that's bullying. That's bad behavior, but it's not bullying. So in the future, we'd have to be more specific about, here's the definition of bullying. Now, what's interesting is lots of kids have been bullied, and you see this all the time, but no one's children have done any bullying. So, and this is typical.
But if you go back to that, you're right, it is typical. But if you go back to that other one, I think the perception is kind of what you're after, right? Like, you're after, because this is something that parents will say a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, my child was bullied, or
Right.
and that is, and I don't mean that at all to be, not taking anything seriously. Obviously, you have to. It's a horrible and serious issue. It's hard to know it, right? Like, and so I think what somehow you have to get, and it might be a school by school initiative, to isolate. What are you talking about? Like, what kinds of events are you talking about? And but there are some really seriously terrible things that you hear, parents will say, and I think, how did that, what's real about that? How do you find out what's real about that?
Well, and again, it's something, we don't have a corner on the market for bad behavior.
Oh, right, yeah.
If you look at what's happening at Latin Academy right now in Boston, they're on, they're forefront in the news. This is an exam school with students highly competitive, and there's bad behavior going on.
Oh, absolutely. It's universal.
But whether it's happening somewhere else or not, the important thing is it happening here? Where is it happening? What is it? And what can we do about it? At your child's school, how well does the overall approach to discipline work for your child? This is almost like right down the middle. Very well. 50% of the people feel very well. Here's the group that feels fairly well. And then in the not well category, it could be discipline isn't really coming out well on your child's end, but again, each school will have to have these statistics, and we can compare that. How motivating are the classroom lessons at your child's school? Quite motivating, extremely motivating, right up here, quite motivating, and somewhat motivating. So, these three together, give you more than 75%. And here's the area where we really need to work on. And that's part of what the new evaluation system does. We don't want to go into classrooms and see people just sitting there taking notes or listening to a lecture. When we find, and the principals find when they go into classrooms, when kids are motivated, you can't stop the learning. You can't even put the brakes on it. But when it's not motivating, it has a different effect. How do you feel the instruction your child receives is appropriate to his or her abilities? Yes, definitely. So again, these two sections here were more than 75% of the parents felt that they were yes for the most part or yes definitely. Is your child receiving meaningful feedback about his or her work? Again, these two charts ended up pretty similar in terms of a small group feel that's not the case. How much effort does your child put into school-related tasks? This is harder, to be honest, about your own child, right? A tremendous amount of effort, 25%, quite a bit of effort, some effort, a little bit of effort, and here was someone who just said, you know what, almost no effort. But that's a very small group. That's, probably 3%. So if nothing, as I was looking at these statistics and the survey, if nothing else, we made almost 500 people think about their child's relationship in the schools, to their teacher, to everything else. That alone is kind of, I thought 500 was a pretty good response. How regularly does your child read for fun? So again, an area we've spent a lot of time in, frequently, sometimes, once in a while, almost all the time. Almost 25%.
That's great.
Said almost all the time. Here's our work. Almost never, right?
Well, honestly, if you look at the right side of the pie chart, that's the difference between getting a lot of, really different scores.
Yeah, right.
Honestly.
Yep.
Reading. It all comes back to whether somebody reads frequently and finds things that they're connecting to.
Well, and we've got, you just had the Title I breakfast on Saturday.
We had over 300 people, and it was the annual Title I meeting, breakfast, and book swap. And we served over 300 breakfasts, and we had close to 100 discrete family units, and they came with books and swapped them out. They bought books, they took books, because our mission in Title I is to ensure that there's a household library in every home. And there were actually even pictures. One little 5-year-old girl had, to get ready, had her parents install a little bookcase at the bottom of her closet, and there was a photo on the cell phone of her standing in front of her bookcase with her hand like this, pointing out for several books.
And you said you had
So-
parents asking about
Oh,
books
yes,
for
we also had
themselves.
parents, because
Reading.
one of the things they do is read with their children. So the parents were selecting chapter books that they would be interested in reading, that they could share with the kids. So that's a really important slide.
So how well do you feel your child's school is preparing him or her for his or her academic career? Again, very small group, not well at all. That's a small, maybe 5 or 7%. But everywhere else, a fairly good response. Here's where we want to be. I would love to see this whole circle dark blue. Does your child take part in school or district after-school programs? This was one of the things we were really trying to get to. So yes and no. So almost 75% no. Again, if we had taken this 5 years ago, when we had 21st century at almost every school, we'd have a very different chart. But now we're down to 2 schools with 21st century, and we're supplementing that with some programs, but we need to do more, and that's clearly a priority. If yes, which ones? So they talked about which of, what these programs are. Big chunk of that is sports. We implemented after-school sports 5 years ago now.
About that,
at the middle school level.
Yeah.
Didn't exist before. That's hundreds of kids that are involved in something that didn't happen 5 years ago. How well do the activities offered at your child's school match his or her interest? Would you be willing to, this is information we wanted to know, because it'll be important as we go forward. Would you be willing to pay a fee for after-school programs? So maybe 20% said yes. Another 20%, 25% said maybe. So if you put those together, you're talking over 50% would be willing to pay some sort of a fee. And maybe it's not a fee that would pay for the whole program, but it might, allow us to put some programs in place. If yes, how much? So 10 to 20, more than 20, $5 or $10 a week. So just to get a sense of, if we're thinking of things and we wanted to add fees, what would people respond to? Would your child be able to participate in after-school programs if transportation was not provided by the school system? This was a big slide.
Yeah.
Because our conventional wisdom said, if we don't provide transportation, no one's going to come. The data is saying the opposite.
Right.
So that means we might be open to looking at after-school programs even if we can't provide the transportation, because at least that might catch a group of kids who are not being serviced right now. So that was a really important slide. And then these are some of the suggestions that, and there were like 80, and if they were identical, I repeated them. So music lessons, reading and arts, computer and art clubs, gymnastics, a Bible club, dinner and a story, robotics, art classes, sports, cooking, outdoor activities, plants, doing things for animals, juggling, physical activity, tutoring, technology, promoting assertive skills, social emotional development, teamwork, collaboration and cooperation with non-disabled peers, better inclusion promoting activities, basketball, self-defense, fun dance, yoga, math programs, robotics, language classes, drama, music, band, reading groups, tutoring arts and crafts, LGBT group, cultural specific activity, intramural sports, science club, Minecraft, community service projects, ballet, hip-hop dancing, a swim team or a club, hockey, volleyball, and a ski club. So that's just a consolidation of what was there. But that section was really long.
That's interesting, a Bible club.
Yeah. We actually already have a Bible
Oh,
club.
do we? I mean,
So-
I know you can do it.
Yeah.
People think you can't have, but you can.
Well, we've had a Bible club at South Street now for 2 years.
2 years. Every Monday afternoon.
So, you know, and so if people step forward and they want to use our facilities and they'd like to provide something, and we have a list of things that they need to go by and meet these priorities, then that can happen. So I think it's a good beginning in terms of gathering information together. And like I said, it's school-specific. And then there were places for comments. So there are lots of comments, you know, lots of really good ideas, lots of good feedback, which, you know, I will be sharing with the principals at each school that can help form what they're looking at. As a segue, using this as a segue into the fact that we've been trying to find a time for a retreat so we can pull everybody together, look at some of this, and focus. Finding a date when everybody can attend has been impossible. I think given the fact that we have 2 new members, I'd hate to have the retreat and have some people not there. So I wanted to suggest, what about turning our next school committee meeting into a retreat? Since it's the second one in February, there are a couple of things that I can move to the March meeting. It's already on your calendar. So instead of trying to find a date that somebody can't make and have someone not participate, if we just convert the next school committee meeting to a retreat, everybody gets to be there. And I was pushing it off. We were looking at the calendar going to March, and that's too far away. And I really think it's important before the budget starts and everything that you all have a chance to sit down with us and talk about priorities and things like that. So I'm putting that out there as a question.
Where would that be?
We would have it at the central office conference room.
Great.
Yeah.
Sure. You gonna
So we would just
provide
post-
the food or what?
What's that?
You providing the food?
Always do.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
That's there's priorities here. Come on.
Yeah. So we would, we'll post it. We've done this before. So we would just post it as, it's still an open meeting and a regular meeting. It just takes on a little bit different environment. And part of that will be the folks, those of us in central office, just giving kind of a synopsis of the kind of work that we're doing and the things that we're working on. I'd bring this kind of information, revisit the, accelerated improvement plan, the district goals, and then kind of have you talk about your priorities so that as we start the budget process, we kind of know what it is we want to focus on. All right?
I'm so delighted because I looked at the map and I saw nothing worked. Not everyone, but that's great. So we will have.
Patty will be so relieved. She's been trying to find a time for everybody, and I just think it's not good to it not be a great way to start off to have even one person not be able to be there. So
we'll have student support at 5:30 before that retreat.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
So it'll be at Central.
Yeah.
Do you want to start the retreat that late? I mean,
we could.
I would like to start at 6.
It's up to you.
Why don't we push off student support till the following Monday? Because it's always been it's usually been the first Monday of the month where we've done student support. That's easy.
All right, and then we'll post a retreat at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Great.
Okay, sounds good. So the last presentation tonight is Paula is going to give you an update on the district and school report cards.
Thank you. So every year, connected to No Child Left Behind and Title I, it's required by federal legislation that parents and the community are notified about student enrollment, teacher qualifications, student achievement, accountability, and how schools are performing relative to other schools in the district and across the state. So I just wanted to include this and a couple of words because these will be going home either the end of last week or this week. In case a constituent contacted you or you had questions, the packet includes a sample cover letter. So every school has a letter that's personalized for the school, but you have a copy of the Fitchburg High sample so that you can see what it looks like and what it includes. And it's in English and Spanish. Just one point, the district report card will also be posted on the website. Schools should be posting theirs on their websites. And by regulation, we also send this to the mayor's office, the public library, and public places so that if folks in the community wanted it, they could go. At the district website, there's also a direct link because this is public information on the Department of Ed website. The documents beyond the cover letter, there's one for every school in the district, and then the district report card. On the Department of Ed website, the full school report card, so to speak, is about 20 pages long. It includes massive amounts of detail going back several years. These are the summary reports that the Department of Ed actually creates for us that meet all of the federal regulations. So that you can see the percentile ranking of the school compared with other schools. You can see the proficiency index, the growth scores. There are graphic as well as numerical representations. And then the Department of Education has pulled out, and it's primarily on the second page of most of the school report cards, what they consider to be the high points of the data sets. But the 20-page reports at the Department of Ed website have data point after data point after data point. Yeah. Incredible. So this gives you kind of the overview of the number of teachers who are considered highly qualified, and that means certified in their content and grade level, student attendance, suspension rates, and then particularly for the high school, the 5-year, 4-year graduation rates, the annual dropout rates, and average SAT scores. So this is just so that you know, overview, summary. Any questions?
I had a question. As I was reading this, I was thinking, you have to translate this into Spanish. So
no, we don't.
We don't this. Okay.
We do not translate this into Spanish. We have requested that from the Department of Ed for many years, and they do not provide translated copies.
Since they provide it, that's their responsibility.
Right. And they don't
translate the cover letter.
Right.
We do not. This is not in a Spanish
There's no
version.
way for us to access this database to
Correct.
the level that we would be able to do that.
Right. We can't even, for example,
Change anything.
for us to print this document and change this because the white print doesn't print well on the dark blue,
right.
and we can't make 5,000 copies, we can't manipulate this file at all.
Is that why DESE doesn't do it?
I don't.
Is it costly?
I have no idea.
I'm surprised at that.
Yeah, we've requested it
Really?
regularly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do other districts request that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But none of
that's
them
something.
provide it.
Yeah. They don't get it. Yeah.
This comes directly from the Department of Ed.
So is that something we should follow? I mean, I know you've been trying to do this for years, but I don't understand what's so difficult about it. Other than cost, obviously.
I don't know.
Right? I would think.
Well, I'm meeting with the commissioner Wednesday
Okay.
with other urban superintendents. I can put it on my agenda to ask.
Yeah. That'd be good. You all set?
Any other? I'm all set.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Andre, you want to take up the donation, McKinney-Vento donation? We need to vote on that, right?
Yep.
Yep.
It's an action item.
Okay. 15-653, approve the superintendent's recommendation to accept the donation of holiday Thanksgiving baskets, estimated value $400, for the purpose of supplementing schools' holiday baskets for students in need from Leominster Spanish Seventh-day Adventist Church. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to to approve 15-653. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is unanimous. You want me to continue on, Andre?
Yep, that's,
And 15-654, approve the superintendent's recommendation to accept warrant number WG 16032 in the amount of $811,000.41.
Motion to pay the bills.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It is unanimous.
Motion for adjournment.
Motion made for adjournment. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.
Don't forget to contact Ken Flanagan.